What's going on, everyone? So it looks like the Memphis Grizzlies are about to overpay for Dorian Finney Smith, and I'm actually okay with it, right? I'm not really a fan of teams overpaying for guys, but I actually think it's a move that makes a lot of sense for the Memphis Grizzlies. One of the things that they really need is a legit three, right? A lot of times they're running kind of small. Let's see Marcus Smart out there, Baines, right? Like, it'd be nice if you had that kind of sizable two-way 3-and-D wing. So far, based on the reports that have came out, and depending on when you're watching this, the trade may have already happened, but based on the reports, it looks like it's going to be Luke Kennard, Conchar, and as well as a first-round pick. That, I think, is a bit of an overpay. Teams have been trying to get a first for Dorian Finney Smith for years. One, Brooklyn's been trying to do it since they got him, and even Dallas was trying to get a first for quite some time. No one really bought, right? Dorian Finney Smith, I think, is a very good 3-and-D guy, very good role guy. He's not the upper echelon guy, right? But he is that kind of good quality veteran guy that knows his role, plays his role well, can really impact one of these veteran teams. And in a case of the Memphis Grizzlies, who are a young team, I think he really would have an impact just in the locker room as well as on the court and help kind of move the needle for them to a point where maybe it would get them into contention. Still would be a little iffy on Memphis. There's not a team in the league that I look at and just go, Memphis has no way of beating. But there are some concerns about Memphis and just kind of, are they good enough overall to really kind of make that push and be in the NBA Finals? Now, a lineup of Ja Morant, Desmond Baines, Dorian Finney Smith, and then Triple J with Zach Edey would give you size, versatility, length. I mean, talk about a starting five, right? That would be fantastic. If you wanted to go small, you could go small, have Marcus Smart out there with Dorian Finney Smith at like the 4, and then go with the Triple J at the 5, really spread teams out, play different looks. Like, you would be able to match whatever the order is for specific teams. You're playing the Warriors, you can go small, kind of match them out on the perimeter. If you're playing a bigger team, you can go big, kind of match them and their physicality and whatnot. I think that if Memphis can make the push, even though they would be overpaying, I still think it's a good move for them. I think it would be a good opportunity to really kind of, I think it's a good fit for Dorian Finney Smith. I think it's a great fit for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think it's something that definitely moves the needle for them. To what extent? That's kind of the question mark, right? Been a lot of talk, should Memphis go and get like a Kyle Kuzma or one of these guys? If you could, in a perfect world, if you could get Cam Johnson, now I think, like, watch out for Memphis. But that would probably be pretty pricey. Kyle Kuzma, my problem is just his inefficiency, right? And can he get into the team scheme of Memphis, right? Or is he kind of stuck and set in his ways? Is a concern, is a question. Like a Jeremy Grant is overpaid and they want too much for him. If you're Memphis, there aren't really many options out there for you. So if you can land a Dorian Finney Smith, I think that that's probably the best case scenario for them based on the current landscape, right? Instead of getting into a bidding war with all these other teams for a Cam Johnson, kind of just go get the guy that makes sense, that fits, that plays the role, that gives you that kind of needle moving, and maybe see and evaluate what else do you need between now and the trade deadline. Does he fit? Does he make sense? Cool. All right, let's go. Also, even with Marcus Smart, right? If you do something like that, that gives you the ability to maybe look to turn Marcus Smart into something. I mean, there were trades about him potentially being on the trade block dating back to this past offseason. So, especially if you get a Dorian Finney Smith, okay, well, now you could look to maybe take Marcus Smart, his contract, his salary, maybe turn it into another piece or two, and kind of round out the depth. Because, I mean, you look at kind of Memphis, and even if they were to trade Conchar and Luke Kennard and guys like that, right? Like, you'd still have Brandon Clark and these guys that can come off the bench and play. Like I said, you can play multiple spots, you can play multiple roles. You can, Marcus Smart, if you don't trade Marcus Smart, right? Like, you got several pieces. You're at least 7, 8, 9 deep on like the high end, and adding in a Dorian Finney Smith who can kind of come in, plug in, and play the role that you need. I just think that there would be a much better, much deeper unit. But if you can take a Marcus Smart and maybe turn him into, kind of maybe some other pieces that round out the depth. Although I do kind of like the idea of again, like I mentioned earlier, kind of being able to match different teams and different scenarios and different matchups. Marcus Smart also gives you a bit of that toughness, that mental toughness, right? Gives you a guy that has been there and done that. But Marcus Smart at times can also be very inefficient, be a bit shot chucky, right? Like he just chuck it. His shot selection at times is very frustrating. And how much would he really be excited about being like a full-time bench guy? Right, because you're not starting him over Ja. You're not starting him over Dorian Finney Smith. Or you shouldn't be. You're not starting him over Desmond Baines. Right, so he's now full-time your guard. And is he willing to kind of take on and accept that role and be that where he can maybe go to a team and be a starter at the guard position, right? And if you're, the Memphis Grizzlies, maybe you can, like I mentioned, get him another high-end piece or two and really kind of round out this roster enough to maybe kind of make that push and be able to throw those haymakers come playoff time. Obviously, you still need health is a big factor, but, Memphis is they're cruising right now. At the time of recording this video, 2 seed, right? Like they're right there in the thick of it. My concern is just like style of play, Ja Morant in particular, right? Like Memphis is just one of those teams that I have concerns with they're a very good regular season team, but come playoff time, that they're going to be a first or second round exit, right? What do they really need to kind of get over that hump? I think ideally like a Cam Johnson or something like that. Again, it's not that I don't think that they can't overcome, right? There's not a team in the league that I look at and go, man, like Memphis has no chance against, Memphis has no shot against. There aren't really any juggernauts in this league, right? Like right now, all these teams are kind of in the middle. Like even the teams that are running away with it, like even OKC and stuff like that, like they're all kind of in the thick of it. Like nobody is really even Boston, I think, is beatable. It's just, can you kind of slow them down? And it's a little bit of a live by the 3, die by the 3 type thing because of the abundance in which they take. But even with Boston, I talked about it last playoffs, right? Like they were never really tested, which again, I'm like a lot of people try to hold that against them. I don't at all. I think it's silly, right? Like they're not responsible for the team that they play. They're not responsible for the team that's in front of them. But what I mean by they were never really challenged is their problem the last few seasons and why they've never been able to get over the hump was whenever they faced some adversity, whenever they got into, some trouble, they crumbled, they folded, right? All the years against Miami, against the Warriors, right? Like in the finals, you just saw them time after time after time get there and just crumble. So I wanted to see a team really kind of push them and see if maybe they get there. If the Grizzlies could be one of those teams that push them, do they just collapse even, right? Like the Cavs are really good. But I think Memphis can compete with the best of them. I think they match up with the best of them. Right? I think Zach Edey finally gives them that big, physical, sizable center at the center spot. And then with, Triple J and his ability to slot in at the 4 and, vice versa, it just gives you so much versatility there. I really like what this team can provide and what this team can bring. And, they're not like a team that I look at, though, even with Dorian Finney Smith and go, that's the team, right? Like that watch out, get out the way. Might be one of those things where you have to see it, right? Like I kind of felt that way about Boston. Like every year, it's just like, they're going to be second conference finals, second round conference finals, and then they're just going to run on that team and they're just going to lose. And they finally got over that hump, right? It's kind of how I feel like, can they finally get over that hump? We saw them in this position where people thought like, oh, they're this contender, they're the best, they're 2 seed, they're this, that, and the other. And they played a team like the Lakers who had experience, who had the size on them, who, just basically essentially just ran through them. And it was like, oh, okay, so they're really not that good. And obviously last year with the Ja, situation, and then now you fast forward to this, and it's like, okay, this kind of feels like they're starting to put it together. Are they going to be able to put it together enough to now compete and contend for an NBA championship? We'll see. But I think Dorian Finney-Smith is an excellent step in the right direction. We'll see if that actually gets done. But Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Dorian Finney Smith to Memphis? Do you not like the idea? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Either way, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.